Hello, everyone. Welcome to the latest LinkedIn Live from MIT Sloan Executive Education. The feed is just getting started up, so if you're just joining us, I'll give it a few seconds to make sure people can join in and hear the beginning. So once again, welcome, everybody. I'm Peter Hurst. I'm the Senior Associate Dean for Executive Education at the MIT Sloan School of Management. And we have a LinkedIn Live session with you right now, featuring two of our fantastic colleagues from the Sloan School, Paul Cheek and Bill Ollett from the Martin Trust Center for MIT Entrepreneurship at the MIT Sloan School of Management. Today, we're going to be talking about, this is a kind of a drop-in session and discovery session for people that are interested in learning more about entrepreneurship education at the MIT Sloan School, and especially our Entrepreneurship Development Program, which runs notably every January here on campus at MIT. And so we are now in September, just a few months to go before the next run of the Entrepreneurship Development Program. So we thought this would be a great time to answer any questions that people might have about the program. So this is supposed to be a very interactive session. Hopefully people are starting to log in now onto the LinkedIn live stream. And if you ask any questions that you would like Bill and Paul or maybe me to answer, then please do that in the LinkedIn thread, and we will get to your questions as they come in. But while we're waiting for you to think a little bit about what you might want to ask, let me once again welcome Paul and Bill. Thanks, Bill, for turning your camera on. So in true entrepreneur style, Bill has managed to find about 30 seconds to have some lunch before we get going with the questions. But while we wait for a few more to come in, why don't I start by just turning both to both of you and putting sort of a very high-level question to you. We're talking about the Entrepreneurship Development Program that is an executive education program at the MIT Sloan School. But just as a bit of a warm-up to that, Paul, why don't I turn to you, just because Bill, I think, is finishing his lunch. Could you tell us what are some of the common misconceptions about entrepreneurship that you've encountered in your time here with us at MIT? And what is it about the EDP program that you think particularly addresses those misconceptions?
Oh, yeah, Peter, great question. And so nice to see you. Glad to be here with everybody to share a little bit more about EDP, the Entrepreneurship Development Program. Quick intro, my name is Paul Cheek. I am one of the faculty leads for the Entrepreneurship Development Program. And I absolutely love it because it most closely mirrors the life of a full-time entrepreneur in just 1 week. Peter, it is such a whirlwind. One of the things that you hear often is everything goes in a straight line. That is so not the case for those who come through EDP. It's certainly not the case for entrepreneurs. Coming back to your question, right? One of the misconceptions that everything does go in a straight line. And one thing I'd come back to, Peter, you joined us at dinner Wednesday evening. It's always quite the affair. Wednesday evening dinner during EDP this past year, I remember you joined, and there was a question that I posed to one of the members of the cohort, and that question was very simple: how are you doing right now, right? And I don't know if you remember the answer, but on a scale of 1 to 10 or 1 to 100, where do you feel? And we've started to look at the highs and lows of the entrepreneurial journey throughout that process. Nothing goes in a straight line in entrepreneurship, and that's something that participants get to experience firsthand for themselves, much like if they were out there building a company full time. Some of the participants are, and some aren't necessarily. So that's one. Nothing goes in a straight line. The other thing that I would say is that we as humans all thrive in structure, and entrepreneurs, good entrepreneurs, strong entrepreneurs need structure. There's a misconception, I believe, that many folks believe entrepreneurs wake up in the morning and they decide what they want to do that day, and they go do it. And that's the daily life of an entrepreneur. And that's so not the case. You think about going and working within a large organization, and structure is provided to you in some regard, right? There are annual goals, there are objectives, there's a vision, there's a quarterly check-in meetings, perhaps 9 to 5, a weekly team sync. And good entrepreneurs have to create that structure for themselves, because there's nobody just handing it to them. But the best entrepreneurs certainly create that structure for themselves. In day one of EDP, we go through a whole list of these misconceptions. We could go on and on with these. A couple of the others would be that entrepreneurs love risk. And sure, entrepreneurship involves some form of risk, but the way that we approach the entrepreneurial process at MIT is one that reduces risk. Our goal in terms of everything that we do is to figure out, how do we increase our odds of success, reduce risk by making calculated decisions. In a large organization, you have decades and decades and decades of data to make decisions based upon. In entrepreneurship, we have none of that, and we have to go out and collect that data, unique insights, to make decisions for ourselves, to figure out where do we go from here with our company. And that data is just so important, because that's what reduces the risk involved. Entrepreneurs don't love risk. Good entrepreneurs find ways to make sure that they are limiting the amount of risk that they are exposed to. What else? Entrepreneurs are born is one that we talk a lot about. That's a misconception for sure. We teach entrepreneurship rigorously here at MIT, and we've done it in a way where we know now anybody can learn entrepreneurship, and you can teach it, you can learn it. Anybody can pursue this entrepreneurial path, right? We think of entrepreneurship as this mindset and this skill set and this community mode of operating. We can help anybody pursue that and become a stronger entrepreneur, and that's not limited to people who want to go start a company. I think that's another misconception in and of itself, is that entrepreneurship is just about starting companies, starting businesses from the ground up. That's so not true. Not only do we see people coming through the EDP program, looking at entrepreneurship in different fields, different industries, but we see them coming at it for different reasons. Perhaps they want to start a company, but for many people, they want to join a startup company. And being entrepreneurial, developing that entrepreneurial mindset and skill set will help them to be most effective in doing so. For others, it's, you work in a big company and you want to do more than is reasonable with the resources that you have control of, your budget, the headcount, and the size of the team. You want to achieve more, or you're looking to the future of that organization and you want to move the needle. You want to figure out what are the levers that we can pull to truly advance this company overall. For others, they want to be entrepreneurs in academia or in government or in nonprofits, and that we need as well. So, that's the last misconception that I would share, this idea that entrepreneurship is just about startups. It's not. It's about so much more. Bill, I know you love misconceptions about entrepreneurship. Any others that you want to chime in with beyond the, entrepreneurs don't have any structure, that entrepreneurs love risk, that entrepreneurship is just about startups? Any others that you really like?
No, just let me double down on the one that you said, that entrepreneurs are born, not made. Entrepreneurs are not born. Everyone is born an entrepreneur, I should say, but it just needs to be brought out of them, which goes to the second misconception. Entrepreneurship can't be taught, and we have very clear data that shows that it can be taught. In fact, we just completed a 10-year longitudinal study, and it showed the survival rate of companies 5 years after they're started out of our program, this is at MIT writ large, is 69%. And I can tell you, not everybody succeeds in entrepreneurship. But that's a very good percentage, and that's well above the average. So it can be taught. We're not the only ones, but it must be taught in an apprenticeship model, not in a theoretical model. And the last thing is, I think comes to the fundamental premise is entrepreneurs. It's just it's mindset. There's not discipline to it. And you mentioned structure. Entrepreneurship is about having the spirit of a pirate and the execution skills of a Navy SEAL. There is a tremendous amount of discipline involved. It's not the same structure, as you mentioned, Paul, that you have in a big company, but there is discipline, and there are certain first principles that we teach you that improve your odds of success dramatically, but they have to be executed with discipline. And that's what entrepreneurship is about.
So, Bill and Paul, thanks for that. Now, you mentioned, Bill, the notion that very importantly, entrepreneurship can be taught. You described it as being an apprenticeship. So let's think a bit about EDP in particular. As probably everybody knows, this is one very intensive week on the MIT campus. So, how do you squeeze that apprenticeship model where you can help people learn the skills and capabilities and get the mindset that it takes to be a successful entrepreneur in a week? And if I may, I was just trying to calculate, Bill, you must have flown around the world hundreds of times by now, both teaching, but also seeing how other people develop and teach entrepreneurship. So, what's different about what you guys have created here at MIT? What is so different about EDP?
Paul, you go first. I look like I've flown around the world 100 times. I know.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. We see entrepreneurship taught in different ways all over the world. And I think what you get out of that 1 week here in Cambridge on campus for the EDP program is something that is truly special, something that I have never seen, never experienced ever before anywhere else. How do we squeeze so much into that week? Well, first of all, I'll say very long days. But mostly because we have a group of people who are all coming in this same mindset of, okay, we are going to lean in as far as we possibly can in this process for the full week. And I think a lot of this is putting people in the position where they have to go live the life of an entrepreneur for a full week. Like I was describing at the beginning, Peter, going through the highs and the lows themselves, putting them in a team with a remarkable goal that they need to achieve by the end of the week. Folks come in, they may come in with no idea, no team, and they have to do that. They've got to do that within the first couple hours. And we really put people through the hardest part of the entrepreneurial process right off the bat. And that is just getting started. And then through a combination of classwork, activity work, mentoring with coaches, renowned entrepreneurs who we bring in to work with these teams throughout the course of the week, as well as visits to other entrepreneurship resources in the ecosystem, they have to accomplish just a phenomenal task of creating a full business by the end of the week. The way that they learn this is literally by going through the entrepreneurial process that we teach here at MIT, that we put through that program, Bill, that you mentioned. And that's rooted in the methodologies that we've developed here at the Trust Center, including discipline entrepreneurship and startup tactics, and the ability to go and sit down for that full week and explore an extremely rigorous approach to the entrepreneurial process. That doesn't exist in the same way elsewhere, with the magic of what happens here on the MIT campus. So, we think about, what do people get? What's the value out of that week, right? It's the ability to say, all right, let's start from the basics. Let's figure out who this customer is. Let's figure out how would we scale this business? How would we model the finances of this new venture? And ultimately, these are all things they can bring right back to their company, whether that is a startup or a larger organization, right? Starting from the basics, this vocabulary that they'll develop that they can bring back to their executive leadership teams or to their entire team if they're a small new organization that they're trying to spin up. If those participants who come from Big Co, from a larger organization, they're thinking about how do we scale this business? The principles that people learn in EDP, they can bring right back the following Monday.
Let me just add to it. Having seen lots of it, what makes MIT different? What makes EDP different? Look, it starts with the DNA. It starts with the DNA of MIT. Mens et manus, mind and hand. It is not enough to just get observational. It's not just enough to get experiential. You need to combine the analysis of what entrepreneurship is, the theory, whatever you want to call it, with the actual doing of it. And that's why MIT, it's mind and hands. There's a steel worker and there's a kind of philosopher on the logo of MIT. And that's where it all starts. Like, we're not just a bunch of entrepreneurs teaching something based on our experience. It's been looked at. There's evidence base. We go through it. I just looked around as you saw there, and I pull up this study. I'm super proud of this study. It's a 10-year longitudinal study of what we do with our students. That I can sit here and say I couldn't have said 69% of them were in business 5 years later before we did that study. And if I did, you shouldn't believe me. And someone once said 60% of the statistics you hear are completely fabricated, that being one of them. But in this case, we actually have the data to back it up. So in the MIT way of standard of excellence and rigor is if you teach something, you better have proof that it works. And so it starts with that. And then once we know that it works, we have the ability to scale it. We're not going to scale it to the sign of China or India, but we've scaled this to thousands and thousands of people, and it's used in hundreds of schools around the world. And we've refined it over 20 years to make sure that it works. And so once you know that you have something that works, once you've got the data, then what we do is we have total confidence to try to run that playbook in a very short period of time. And that's what we do at MIT. And we have outstanding mentors to do it. It's not just Paul, it's not just myself. There's a whole team of people that help you go through this. But they're all well-versed in the methodologies that we use that we know work. And I think ultimately, that's, if I had to point to one thing, it's rigorous in that we've studied it, but it's practical in the sense that we are entrepreneurs. Both Paul and I are not, we're accidental academics. We're real entrepreneurs, and we've had to ship product, go retrieve product that didn't work, make payroll, miss payroll, have the joy of seeing something win an award, have the ecstasy of the pit in your stomach, knowing you're going to have to let people go at times. I don't understand how you can teach it without having that experiential. But I also understand how you can teach it with only experiential and not having the observational and rigor and data analysis of it. Wow, it's like somebody liked that comment here. That's just a joke. They have no idea what's going on in the other room. But welcome to the chaos of the Martin Trust Center for MIT Entrepreneurship.
I thought maybe that was your AI was just adding a voice reaction to the camera feature.
Oh my gosh.
Can we just drill down a little bit, Bill? I think that's a really great point. What Bill or Paul would be, just one example of the kinds of the big idea, the framework that you took that is central to the teaching, and particularly that people would experience at EDP.
Go ahead, Paul.
Sorry, say that again, Peter.
Could you just say like one example out of Bill was talking about all the sort of the tools and frameworks. What would be, just make that tangible for people? What is an example of a tool or a framework?
Yeah, absolutely. This framework that we teach from Discipline Entrepreneurship, like Bill mentioned, it's used all over the world. When teams come in, individuals come in, they sit down and they have to start through that process, starting with nothing more than an idea, technology, something along those lines. And they have the ability to sit down and start. And the first thing that we do day one is figure out who is the customer. That's the first fundamental question we ask. And teams have to do a rigorous market segmentation to figure out what's the best market to go into first. We don't start by building the product like you might expect, right? The engineer in me wants to sit down and start building the product, but what we do is this rigorous analysis, a structured methodology of market segmentation. That's the first place we start. But to Bill's point, it's not just analysis, right? We've continued to iterate, and every year EDP, we take the feedback in and we revise the program to make it even better. Some of the things that we've begun to introduce are the new curriculum, startup tactics, right? Looking at how do we go run experiments out in the real world? How do we run look at that product placement right there, Bill. We go and we look at how do we run that first marketing campaign, that first sales campaign? How do we do the early product design and do some user testing? One of the things that's important to know is, yes, folks come to the MIT campus. They experience the MIT fire hose, as we call it, just so much to gain in such a short period of time. But the time spent in EDP is not limited to the classroom. What do I mean when I say that? I mean, participants in the program have to go out and talk to real customers. part of this process is not just doing analysis forever and business planning, but instead going and getting real world insights from real people, building up that unique data set that I described earlier. So, these are a few pieces of the process that participants experience. And I think there's just so much more to it when we think about learning from a book. You can't just learn it from a book. You have to also understand how to put it into practice.
Great, thanks, Paul. I know that you will have to actually go and do some teaching shortly. So
we got to run off to class here.
I don't have to. Paul does.
So we're going to stick with Bill, but Paul, before you go, maybe I could sort of jump forward a little bit and say, have you got any great success stories, particularly from people who've been through the EDP program that you like to share with people?
Yeah, I mean, you look back at EDP, there's so many amazing stories of folks who've come through. One of the things that we generally do for EDP cohorts is, we'll do a virtual welcome session in advance and bring back a few EDP alums to share a little bit about what the experience has led them to do. One woman who's come back at least once, if not a number of times, whose story I just absolutely love, is a woman named Tanya, who started a company called Sure Start. She came through EDP, I believe, in 2020, and she's built an AI talent incubator. It's a mission-driven company, and it's designed to help increase AI workforce diversity. It's really exciting to see what she's built, leveraging the discipline entrepreneurship methodology, even sharing that methodology from EDP with many of the individuals who've come through their programming as well. That's just one of many. Another one that always comes to mind is Yuval, who started a company called Blend AI shortly after coming through the EDP program. And when we look at all of the, he's got this company that helps organizations evaluate their data. We look at all these stories and we think about where they came in and how much they've gained by coming through the program. There's so many examples of this, and we always love to hear them. We like to ask EDP alums to come back and share more with us. We got a taste of some of their stories at our book release back in April when we did an exclusive book launch with them. There's always more EDP alums sending their stories and sharing what they've been able to accomplish, and we can't wait to welcome the next cohort in January.
Great. Thank you so much, Paul. And I know you have to go, so I really appreciate you spending some time with us right now, just sharing your experience of EDP, and we can turn to Bill and dive a bit deeper with him now.
Thanks, Peter.
Thanks, Paul. Good luck. Keep those young ones, freshmen at MIT, entrepreneurial. I want to go back to the previous question, and we'll go to the question you asked about success stories. Mm-hmm. The first thing I want to say is, what makes it unique? And I think about this all the time. I've been doing this for 20 years plus at EDP. I mean, I think these books are like this. This has been used so many times. This is a disciplined entrepreneurship methodology, which we use. This is not something I invented, to be clear. Well, I guess I did. But all the concepts came from different places, like design thinking. And it came from Crossing the Chasm. It came from Blue Ocean Strategy. It came from what I learned at IBM. It came from Procter & Gamble. It came from all these things that I saw were working when I was an entrepreneur. And I tested. And then I kind of brought them back to the cauldron of MIT and said, these work for me. Do they work for other people? And so when we put this together, this is meant to be three things, this methodology. It's meant to be a framework that is first accessible. Entrepreneurs don't have a lot of time, and most of us don't have a long attention span. So we've really got to make something that we can get our hands around very, very quickly. And the whole nature of this book, from its design to the illustrations, to the way it's written, to the examples, to the templates that are in it, to the videos, are to make it accessible to an entrepreneur who does not have a lot of time. They're not into a world of theory. So it's got to be accessible and actionable. The second design point is it must be rigorous. We've talked about that. I'm not going to go back to that again. But if it doesn't work, it's not going to make it into this book. So how do you take something that's rigorous and make it accessible? That's the real challenge here. And then you have to do that. And if it's going to stay rigorous and accessible, it has to be integrated so that there's a path that you can go through. But the third thing I want to emphasize in the design of this, which has really made it's really open source. It's not any one place. if an idea works, we bring it in, we make it accessible, we make sure it's rigorous, and we integrate it. And that's how we come up with this framework. So this framework has been something that's evolved again over 20 years. Just the new release came out here. We now have added to it this as well. It continues to evolve as well it should. As you learn more about what works and what doesn't work, you should add to your body of knowledge. And oh, by the way, the field changes. So if you think about that, we're very comfortable with it, as I said. Once you're comfortable with it, you can do something like EDP. It's even faster than EDP, and we'll be using an EDP, is an AI tool now, which we call Jetpack. And I just put up, being put up in the chat now, a YouTube video of someone who got access to the private beta for this. And it blew her away. It was a former student from MIT, and she used it in her nonprofit, and it blew away. And she put this video up, which you will see, which we did not solicit. She put it up unsolicited. And when you watch that video, if it doesn't blow your mind, I don't know what will. And people say, oh, you could do that using ChatGPT or Claude or something else. You cannot. You have to, you can't. The key here is, what are you prompting? What are you prompting ChatGPT? And that framework right here, and we have a Start Tactics, that's the key to it. That's how we can produce the DE Jetpack, and you'll see it right there in the explanation of it. And so it really takes the point that I was just making, Peter, like, these frameworks have been refined in a very rigorous way, in a systematic way over time. And as they are, that's what allows us to do EDP. That's what allows us to make an AI tool. Oh, by the way, that's what allows us to take the AI tool and put it into EDP and make even more progress now. And that's why I'm so excited about the one that's coming up this January. It's going to be the first EDP where we have used this AI tool in it, fundamentally integrated completely throughout the curriculum. So the things that I'm saying are connected to each other. So let's go back to the success stories. Everybody wants success stories of someone who come out and start a company, and we've got them. Paul just went through a bunch of them. I literally had this just framed and put here. This is from Davin McEnany in Dublin, Ireland, and he was so fired up that he started a new company, and you can see here. And then he sent us this with all the people in his company doing it, because if you have a common framework, you want everyone to understand it and everybody aligned. And Davin is succeeding extraordinarily well. You can see a write-up that he put in Disciplined Entrepreneurship. And Paul went through startups. But I want to step back and say it's not just about startups, as Paul talked about. I also got off right before this call, literally at 2:00, with a university that has 37,000 engineers. And they're using disciplined entrepreneurship, that what they learned there, to teach on engineers. So they came to EDP, they learned about the methodology, they believed in it, they're now using that to teach other people, which makes us proud as hell. And there's going to be some thousands and thousands of engineers who are going to be better equipped to solve problems in the real world than they were before. We love it if you come to EDP and start a company. Guess what? We love it as well if you go in and you take it back to your existing organization and you do things like these professors have done at this very large university. So I want to just make that point as well, Peter. Success comes in many different flavors.
Right, and that's actually very timely. I just see in the comments we had a question from Tim, who
Tim the Beaver. Tim the Beaver's on here.
Tim, this is not Tim the Beaver. This is Tim Cornelius, but saying that he's read the book and found it very helpful, and he's asking about, you were just touching on this, disciplined entrepreneurship approach to places like rural entrepreneurship. So, what is the gamut?
Rural Arkansas, Razorback. All right, Tim. So first of all, I don't know if you're, Tim, I don't know if you're an educator. I don't know if you're, in government or whatever, but we make everything we do open source. And so the knowledge is out there. And this AI tool that I put up here that we have is something that we're very, very interested in moving to make entrepreneurship more inclusive. And Tim, by your picture, it looks like you're close to me in age. Hopefully you're not as old as I am. But entrepreneurship now used to be concentrated literally in Boston and Silicon Valley. And when I grew up, basketball used to be concentrated in New York City. And anyone who was a good basketball player, you went through New York City at some point in time. Today, that doesn't happen. I don't think Nikola Jokic has ever been to Rucker Park, has ever been to West 4th Street. And likewise today, entrepreneurship is being spread out much more than it ever has been before. And it's much more accessible than it's ever been before. The methodologies that we're talking about are ones that you can implement in rural Arkansas. Will you have different problems that you'll want to address? You certainly will. But as Davin showed, and many of our people who come from, I think it's over 30, too bad Anne Marie isn't on here. Usually it's, I think, over 30 countries in the world. They have to apply it in places that have even less resources than rural Arkansas. But it's a path to financial independence. It's a path to economic prosperity. It's a path to basically elevating your quality of life and standard of life for those around you. So it is something now that's available because of how connected we are in the world. You know, you can get the books, you can get the AI tools, you can see videos, you can use those. But at the end of the day, I will tell you, after having taught over COVID, and Peter knows this, I am a huge fan of teaching the teachers in person. Entrepreneurship is a contact sport. And I believe that you need to teach the teachers in person, and then they need to go out and do it. So I would say for rural Arkansas, this is more of a teach the teachers model. And this is what we've done in Kentucky and Wyoming and places that are similar to that. Hopefully that answers your question, Tim.
All right, Tim had a follow-up of where can he get a look at the AI tool? One obvious answer would be if you're able to come to EDP in January, then you can get some hands-on training with it. But Bill, for people that are interested in learning more about the work that you've been doing with the jetpack, where do they find out more other than the video that you just posted?
So it'll be posted on it's on YouTube. And the link will be put in there. I don't know if one of our colleagues has already put that link up there.
They have. Yep.
And it's also, if you follow me on LinkedIn, I did a LinkedIn post. And I will tell you again, that video was not something that we produced. That was done by a user, which makes it all the more powerful.
Great. Thanks.
And go Hogs. I'm looking forward to seeing what Calipari's going to do down there for you guys, Tim.
Another question from the comments, Bill. Fernando's asking about what networking opportunities there are sort of beyond the program or after the program is completed. Could you share a bit more about your experience of this global EDP alumni community that you see all over the world?
Yeah. It's funny because, you know, one of the questions you would ask me was, what do they get from this when they go to EDP? And you will get the mindset. You will get reinvigorated and confident that entrepreneurship is a viable career option, lifestyle. It's to make it good. If you don't believe that, you can go on and look at the videos that I just posted this morning from Delta V, one of our programs. But you will come back, your mindset for entrepreneurship, that this is what people need, this is what you should be doing, will be invigorated. The second thing is that we talk a lot about is you will get your skill set invigorated. The third thing is the way of operating, as Paul mentioned, is a distributed way of operating. It's a community-based way of operating as opposed to what I was taught when I first came out of college at IBM, command, control, and conquer. You will leave EDP with, I still get, let me see if I've gotten any in the past, since this call has started, I've probably gotten some WhatsApp messages. Well, here's one from Basil I. I've heard the story of how beachhead market strategies helped us. You will get your classmates, which will be invaluable to you as people that you can, that will be your community. Those will be your entrepreneurial soulmates. The irony is you won't even have known them at the beginning of the week. And by the end of the week, you'll be hugging each other at the last day and going home, connected on WhatsApp, and announcing when you have a success in business, asking if someone can help you in another country. Again, people come from all over the world. Your network will blossom here with your classmates. Will it blossom with some people at MIT? It will do that as well. But I'll tell you, the most valuable one is going to be those classmates that you have, that you went through this experience together. because you will be brothers and sisters for life.
Great, thank you. Different tack. Felipe was asking about businesses or industries that are very labor intensive. I'm going to try to interpret a little bit what I think you might be asking is, where MIT are the industries that you see people being successful in with EDP and with these frameworks? Are they really kind of just limited to sort of high tech and sort of tech startups, or is there a much sort of broader range of value and application of these ideas?
Well, look, let me give twofold answers to that. This is Felipe. We're about building innovation-driven companies. We're about building companies that will grow. If you're about building a one-person, two-person, three-person consulting firm, this will help you. There's no question about it. But you're not our target customer. Our target customer is someone who's going to build a scalable business. What is that? That's a product business. It's a product business that has some innovation in it. A product can also be a replicatable service that you have that has human labor in it. Because at the end of the day, we can't just have robot. There's going to be people who do things. There's going to be people in the loop. So it relates to, if you want to have a business where there's service component to it, but you can come up with an innovative process that makes those people more productive in a replicatable way. And that's what, they were talking about Tanya Mishra. That's what her business does. It's teaching. We have one with mentoring, as you'll see on the Delta V video, LinkedIn post I just had this morning. So there is, we're not eliminating humans. And this idea, we just had this, I was on a panel and they were saying, oh my God, AI is going to eliminate all the jobs and robotics is going to eliminate all the jobs. They said that when all of a sudden computers came along. And guess what? Computers create a whole nother set of jobs, the post-industrial society jobs. And that's what AI is going to do as well. So you're not going to lose your job so much to AI as you're losing your job to someone who knows how to use AI better than you. And I believe very strongly in this. I saw when the spreadsheet came along. If you sat there, or computers, you said, I'm not going to use a computer, I'm going to do it the old-fashioned way. You are putting yourself out of work because you're not using the most current technology. And AI is like that too. So I hope that answers your question, Felipe. We are very big on using AI as a tool for good. And that's what we do with this tool that you'll see to help build companies faster.
Sticking with AI, I mean, clearly the work that you've done to develop this tool is a very good illustration of the kinds of things and the power that AI gets. I remember you telling me, Bill, about how you've compressed the time that it takes to take our degree students through the process of creating a business plan. Could you share a little bit about that application of the tool?
Yeah. Again, if you see this video that's being posted on YouTube with the Jetpack tool, it is insane. We just started using this tool, and people who took the class last year they're mad because they're saying, what took us 3 weeks to come up with market segmentation and fill in the matrix, these you can do now, in 15 minutes with your tool. Yes, you can. And we can't stop that, and we're not going to go back and say that's just the way life is. But let me tell you, you can't just take the output of an AI tool. What an AI tool does for you is it compresses the time that you have secondary market research from whatever it is to almost zero. Secondary market research is things like, how do I go out and find out what a market sector is? What pricing models are they using? Or what business models are they using? What pricing do they have? It's like having 5 MIT sophomores sitting there in your office at your beck and call to go do research. And when they do it, they get it instantaneously. But all that research is looking backwards. That's looking backwards. That's what large language models are. So anything where you need to get information looking backwards, where you're not using AI, you're crazy. But still, what that means is entrepreneurship The key now is getting insights. How do you build a team? How do you interpret this data? How do you recognize what making sense that these 5 MIT undergraduates are bringing back for you in this large language model? That's what entrepreneurship should be about, not the rote stuff of just finding out what's already known. Because at the end of the day, entrepreneurship is about doing something that's never been done before. And that's the key insights that you need to focus on, not figuring out what's already been done. And so it's going to do that for you. So anything that took to figure out what's already been done before goes to zero. And you're like, oh my God, what you do now is you focus on that part of the process, which is forward looking, where you have to do primary market research with your own eyes, with your own ears. That's where this is all moving. Oh, by the way, you have to learn to build teams and to have those teams be high performing and curate them, and then build those personal relationships to actually execute whatever your business is as well. So really the human part of this is coming out, as opposed to the rote kind of drone market research aspect.
Let me press that, if I may press you on that a bit, Bill. So in your experience, do you think, what's the relative importance of the idea versus the execution?
The idea is the single most overrated thing in entrepreneurship. Let me repeat. The original idea is the single most overrated thing in entrepreneurship. If people say, I can't start a company because I don't have the right idea. No matter what your original idea is, it is wrong in so many ways. And the entrepreneurial process makes you humble, hungry, and hardworking, because you realize that what you think is true is only a hypothesis that you need to test. And then you have to do this thing with our colleague Matt Marks used to, called switchbacks, and figure out what part of this is true, who's the customer, and what's the business model to make this work. There's a great book by a friend named Mark Randolph, who co-founded Netflix, and he was their first CEO. And the book is called That Will Never Work. And I love this book, and I have my students read it, and I reference it all the time, because it starts off with him coming up with this idea with Reed Hastings as he's driving in California for this new idea, not like Blockbuster, but how do we get these things out there in a more cost-effective way where we get better utilization? So maybe we should mail them. So he goes home and he tells his wife this. And as it is, when you're married, as you probably know, Peter, when you tell your significant other something that you have an idea, it's stupid and it won't work. And that's what she said, that it won't work. And so he goes through this book, and it's a story of how Netflix came about. And at the end, it's going public, and you're like, all right, he's going to go home and tell his wife that it worked. Well, he goes home and he goes, oh, my wife was so right. The original idea was wrong in so many ways. And so, and that's Netflix. All you can bring is a hypothesis, and then you have to test it with data, doing primary market research, seeing how running those experiments with customers to see how they respond, and then taking what's true out of it and generating new hypothesis, and constantly moving through these woods to find the gold before other people do. And so the original idea, it's necessary. That's how you get a team aligned, and that's how you start the process. But it's like in a solver in a mathematical or spreadsheet. It's just your starting point. And then you iterate on that until you figure out what's the better answer, what's the better answer, what's the better answer. Great. I hope I'm answering your questions, Peter, without being too bloviating here.
No, this is absolutely fascinating, and we're getting some great comments coming in as well. And we've got a very smart question from Parisa, who is clearly getting us to wants us to cut to the chase and be very efficient in respect of out of the 24 steps, which one, she's asking you for one, do people struggle the most with, and how do they overcome that challenge?
Wait, with all due respect, Peter, anyone who has a PhD is not concise. They've been studying one problem in depth for many years. Priest, I'm with you, and I don't know where you're from or you got your PhD, but so 24 steps. I used to say I love all my steps equally. But now you have to do all of them. So you kind of have to do all of them. But I've come to the realization that the most important step is the first step. It's market segmentation. If you don't get market segmentation done right, no step after that is going to be successful. And if you do market segmentation right, if you do it even better, the better you do market segmentation, the more efficient and effective you are with every step that comes after that. And so we spend an inordinate amount of time on step one. What is the market segmentation? Because we spend time on ideating, which we're doing that right now in our class. How do you come up with ideas? How do you build a team? Yes, but as far as the process goes, of the mechanics of building a company, step one of doing really good market segmentation is the most important one. And by the way, you don't just do it and move on and then never come back to it. You constantly go back and you further and further refine who is our customer? What's that demographic? What's that psychographic? Why exactly are they using it? What's the job to be done here? And oh, by the way, who is not our customer? Because there can be some customers that can fool you, who can really, really take you off track. There was one this morning we were talking about, and they were saying, well, we want to use your material to get entrepreneurs. And I said, what type of entrepreneurs? They're like, all entrepreneurs. I said, no, you obviously haven't really embraced my book if that's your answer. Because you can train entrepreneurs in universities, you can train entrepreneurs who are unaffiliated, you can train entrepreneurs in accelerators. Which one is it? Because each one of those will give you a different solution that you need to go after. So, Parisa, I hope I answered your question. I'd love to hear where you're from and what you have your PhD in.
Well, maybe you can add that to the comments. But if I can ask you to expand a little bit on this question of identifying customers, you also talk in the book and in the course about sort of beachhead customers.
Yeah.
And I always find it curious that as you think about the growth potential of your business, which customers are you recommending that people really sort of start doing these experiments with, and why?
Yeah. Well, I think this is such a fundamental concept. After you've segmented it, you cannot go after multiple set market segments at the same time and think you're optimizing your business. I have in the book, and we go over and over this, person who tries to catch two rabbits catches neither. And there's a very interesting study by one of our colleagues who used to be at MIT, Daniel Orelli, who does this study that shows human beings hate to close doors. Even though it makes sense, people hate to close doors. It's FOMO. Well, my God, I want to keep the option of, but studies show that if you close doors in entrepreneurship, it's better. So we really force people, choose which path you're going to go down and go down one path. Even if it doesn't work, you can then pull back. I'm not saying you should go down a path you knowingly believe isn't going to work. You go down the path you think is the best one. And we go through exactly what are the criteria to do that. But it's better to go down one path and have it not work and learn from that and come back out and then go down another path with more conviction. That is another market segment, than to try to do two at the same time and delude yourself. So the concept of beachhead market is extremely powerful and improves your odds dramatically. And it also fundamentally changes your mindset, because I think someone asked, what's the number one mistake that entrepreneurs make? I'll tell you the number one mistake they make at MIT is they fall in love with their technology. They fall in love with their product. You need to fall in love with solving a customer problem, not what you think is best for them. You have these things right here. These are not ornamental. These are meant to listen to what the customer is saying. And you need to build the company from the customer back. And when we do this market segmentation and you think about who the customer is, then it tells you what you should be working on to make the right product, where you should be placing it, how you should be pricing it, how you're messaging it. It's everything. Build a company from the customer back. Those who fall in love with their product and their technology have it all wrong. You have to fall in love with solving a customer problem, but then figure out, what are the technologies? What does the product look like? And by the way, people say, well, people have been, successful and they haven't used your book. It's like, yes, 100% that's true. More than 100. It's more for most people in the world. Jeff Bezos never read the book, but you know what we do? We study what made Jeff Bezos successful. And what made him successful, one of them was beachhead market strategy. He didn't try to sell a lot of stuff online. He sold one thing online. And that one thing was books. He didn't go for the biggest, the most sexy, the most profitable. He went for that one beachhead market that he could land, nail it, and then scale it, or land and expand. And so we learn when we study entrepreneurs what works and what doesn't work. Oh, Teresa, you're right here in Boston, our fair city. But you're at Harvard. That's too bad. There's another school that's stronger right down the street, Teresa.
Especially for what we're talking about right now, Bill. So I know you can't resist me.
Just to be clear, I went to Harvard as well. My undergraduate degree is from there, and you will not find a finer arts and crafts school in the galaxy.
Really, crafts. Well, Bill, while you were talking there, one thing which I thought was quite interesting, you talked about how we shouldn't be obsessed with our particular technology, and that we should be really thinking about solving problems for customers. And what else can you share with us about, particularly thinking about the EDP experience that you really think helps focus people on that truth, on that reality?
Well, when we look at this, and regions have done studies, because some regions invest a lot of money to send people to EDP, and you can see it at let me go at the qualitative way to start with, then I'll go to the quantitative. The qualitative is, we see people come in and they're unsure whether they can be an entrepreneur. And as I said at the beginning, the fact of the matter is every human being is born an entrepreneur. Like, I can't even believe that people don't understand this. It's only been since the Industrial Revolution that people would think that that's true. If you were faced with either dying or making a product or selling a product or providing a service or trading, of course you become an entrepreneur. It's a Darwinian selection process. So everyone's born an entrepreneur, and they can get better at it. And somehow the people often come and they're like, oh my God, I can't do it. I'm not an American. I don't live in Boston. I'm not in Silicon Valley. I haven't raised money. And then they get in the class and they realize, dang, I can do this. I can do this as well as anybody else. And these people, they build up their confidence over the course of the week. And yes, once they build up their confidence, their skill set starts going up too, because they're more willing to experiment. They make themselves more vulnerable. To me, what you gain in EDP, yes, is a skill set, but that mindset of being confident is incredibly important as well. And I already talked about the kind of community that you get, which I think is probably the second most important thing. And then the third most important thing is the mechanics of how to do it. And I'm not apologizing for the mechanics. I think what we teach is absolutely first-rate, gold standard, used by people throughout the world. But I think those are the things. And now let me just give you some data on this. We had Northern Ireland, a group called Catalyst from Northern Ireland and Belfast, sent people over for a number of years. They still do. And they realized this is a big investment, and we're paying for this, we need to study it. So they studied how their students were doing who came back from EDP. And they had already been entrepreneurs who had started companies. But they gained, when they came over, confidence, they gained a community, and they gained improved skill sets. What was the result of that? How did they measure that? Within the next year, John Napton's study showed that the next year, their revenue increased on average 4x. 4x. That's mind-blowing. And if their revenue increased 4x, I guarantee you their profits increased by more than that, because they were much more disciplined when they left. So those are the things that I think about what makes EDP unique, kind of going back, Peter, and why we're comfortable that it succeeds, and the success that people see out of it.
Great, thanks, Bill. And going back to something which you and Paul did talk about at the beginning of this call, but again, you were just talking about understanding who the different customer segments are. So, what are the learner segments? Can you just sort of characterize the kinds of people who might be watching this recording that would get value out of attending EDP?
Yeah, there's exploratory. That's one persona we have. They're interested in entrepreneurship. They have some time. They want to explore it. They don't know enough. That we welcome those people. They come in, and it's not about they get a tremendous value out of it, because it's not about entrepreneurship. Like, we're going to talk to you, like we're talking to you now. That's only going to get you so far. That's going to get you that far. What we do is make you into an entrepreneur for a week, and that gets you that far, because now you really understand at a visceral level what being an entrepreneur is. You can empathize with it. You understand the trials and tribulations of it. So the exploratory entrepreneur. You have the person is committed to it and wants to start a company, who comes to it. Those, we'll call them the ready to go. They come in, they get their toolkit, and they're ready to go and start it after that. Maybe transitioning out of a corporation to start their own company, or just lost their job or whatever. Those are people. We have people who already have companies, and they want to bring them to the next level, kind of smaller companies. Those are the ones we're talking about with Northern Ireland. Another one is the corporates who want to do this. They think, I'm being impressed. I want to become more of an entrepreneur here. And, in the back of their mind, like, maybe I want to become my own entrepreneur someday and start a company. But their company, within their company, they see a path forward to do that. That is very, very common. The other one that's in here, and I just mentioned it with this big university I was mentioning this morning, is educators. There's a lot of educators who come here because they want to learn how do they teach this in their regions. And that's a real valuable one for us as well. And one that we take great pleasure in as well, because there's a force multiplier effect. Like this one I was telling you, they have 37,000 engineers. Boy, how rewarding is that to teach someone who's going to go out and teach 1,000 more people? Because at the end of the day, Peter, as you'll probably end with, the mission of the mission of MIT is to create principled leaders who are going to make the world a better place. And that's our goal. And when we can have a force multiplier effect, we're meeting our mission better than any other way we can.
Great. And maybe in closing, and thanks, that's really helpful. What would you say to someone who may be watching this video and says, okay, I hear you describing all those different potential people that might get value out of coming to EDP, but I just can't quite see myself doing it. What would your response to them be?
Well, Newton's first law of motion is a body at rest will remain at rest, especially when sitting on the couch or in a big corporation. A body in motion will continue in motion. And I guarantee you, if you come to EDP, your body will be in motion and you will be moving towards entrepreneurship. And then a body in motion continues in motion afterwards. And so I would say the hardest part of this whole thing is right there, getting started in it, getting that Newton's first law of motion, overcome inertia. And come in, I assure you, just go look at the reviews. People tell us all the time, and I can tell you this, but coming from me, it doesn't matter. Hearing from them, it's transformative. It changes their outlook on life. They feel like they're the CEO of their own life now, as opposed to working for somebody else. They feel I can create my own job now. I can create the job I want, working on the thing I want to work with, in a culture that I want to work with, the people I want to work with. You become the CEO of your own life. And you can't do that by being passive. There's no reward for an easy job. You got to put yourself out there. You got to make yourself vulnerable. You got to get kind of punched in the nose and get back up. And if you can't do that, life's going to be really hard and boring, I think.
Well, thank you, Bill. And on that note, I can see we've just put on the screen where people can find more information. And the next upcoming session of EDP is January the 19th to the 24th, 2025. Hard to believe it's already nearly 2025. But that speaks to Bill's suggestion that we all get a move on, because time is going on, and there's no time like the present to explore an opportunity like this. On our website, you can get more information. You can read the reviews that Bill was just talking about. You can see lots of other resources and materials and other videos. And of course, that is where you can submit an application to join the next EDP class and become part of this incredible global movement that Bill and his team at the MIT Entrepreneurship Center have created and are really feeding all around the world. So thank you, Bill, for your time. I know time is the most precious resource, and the one that once you've given it is really hard to get back. So we really appreciate you spending that time with us, helping us to understand EDP, and encouraging everyone to want to come and spend a week with you and with Paul and the EDP team early in 2025. Thank you, Bill.
Yeah, my pleasure. I hope to see you all at someplace. Hopefully it's at MIT.